Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
Stats Canada has released the GDP data for the month of November. Hi, I'm Burjesh Dave. This is Big Headlines, everything you need to know to be in the know in just 5 minutes. An update this morning from Stats Canada on how the country is weathering the storm of U.S. trade disruption. The November GDP held steady, but one of the biggest sectors of the economy showed more damage from trade restrictions from the U.S. We're joined now by senior business editor Mike Eppel. So, Mike, what does this mean for Canadians?
Rajesh, this is a confirmation of the damage being done to specific sectors of the economy from the Trump tariffs on Canada's manufacturing, for example. That portion of the economic data contracted by almost 5% year over year in November, worst showing since 2011. Other components of the economy, paper, forestry, steel output, all of these things were down on the month. The only thing that really kept GDP close to break even was the end of strikes in Alberta and British Columbia and the Canadian postal workers strike, and that artificially propped up the overall numbers. The economy likely contracted in the fourth quarter of last year, and that would be 2 out of 4 quarters for 2025 for a negative performance.
You can read more on this story at citynews.ca. Donald Trump is once again threatening this country, and not just with tariffs. The U.S. president is playing on Canada's love of hockey as he warns against cozying up to China. While taking questions at the premiere of First Lady Melania Trump's new documentary at the Kennedy Center last night, Trump said Canada shouldn't get into business with China, then bizarrely took it up a notch.
The first thing they're going to do is say you're not allowed to play ice hockey anymore. That's not good. Canada's not going to play.
He's also now threatening to impose 50% tariffs on Canadian planes, retaliation for what he says is Canada refusing to certify a number of planes made by U.S. firm Gulfstream. He says he'll decertify all aircrafts made in this country, but experts are casting doubt on whether the president can even make that move. Trump is also pushing to fortress North America, with the U.S. and Mexico agreeing to formally start discussions about possible changes to the trade agreement involving Canada, the U.S. and Mexico, which is up for review soon. Also making big headlines, the Conservative Party of Canada's annual convention continues in Calgary today with a vote on whether or not to keep their leader. While the Conservatives did relatively well in the election, leader Pierre Poilievre lost his long-held seat and had to run in an Alberta by-election to get back into Parliament. Since then, 2 MPs have crossed the floor to join the Liberals. Poilievre still widely expected to reach the 50% threshold necessary to stay on as leader. Anything beyond that number would just put the ball in his court. And if he does stay in the top job, political correspondent Cormac McSweeney says that's when the real work begins.
He'll have to keep a passionate base on side while also trying to appeal to the broader public amid some negative polling numbers, as Prime Minister Carney sees an increase in support for his recent handling of our trade war with the U.S.
The results of the vote are expected this evening. Luigi Mangione will not face the death penalty. The decision is a loss for federal prosecutors who had been seeking the death penalty for the suspect in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The judge also ruling today that evidence recovered from Mangione's backpack at the time of his arrest will be allowed in the trial. The defense had argued that searching the backpack was illegal because police hadn't yet obtained a warrant. The list of people obsessed with the TV series Heated Rivalry is growing, with Prime Minister Mark Carney sharing his love for the homegrown show. At a gala in Ottawa promoting the Canadian film industry, Mark Carney was all smiles alongside Canadian actor Hudson Williams, posing for photos and asking him to do the leg thing.
What's the leg thing? Oh, the leg thing.
There. Williams presenting the Prime Minister with the now iconic Team Canada fleece his character wore in an episode. Inside the conference, Carney joked he wasn't above taking credit for the Canadian funding.
I greenlit this thing. I stood up to the Americans. I made this thing made.
Carney praised the show's creators for coming to Canada after studios in the U.S. wanted to change the vision. If you haven't listened yet, today on the Big Story podcast, does the term empty nester still exist? Host Maria Costain speaks to editor and author at Maclean's Claire Gagne.
Torontonians, only Torontonians, need to make more than $86,000 annually just to live comfortably. And that's just to rent, not even home ownership. That's just to rent. When in reality, we know that across the board, those salaries are looking more in that 60 to 70 range. What do you make of that discrepancy?
I think it's a real challenge for a young person when they're trying to start a life. The people that I spoke to both parents and young people for the story, and it was just sort of, they were very pragmatic about it. I can't afford to move out, and it was sort of this idea of like, where does that leave me?
You can listen to the full episode wherever you get your podcasts. Now you're in the know. Thank you for listening to Big Headlines. Make sure you follow, share, and review Big Headlines. Enrica Amaturo is our lead producer. I'm Rajesh Dave. Have an amazing weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.